You talked a little bit just today about some of the roadblocks to implementing, and we've heard them all at Wise over the years, right? I'd love to hear. Hopefully, we've been convincing anyone who's on the fence about timesheets. If people are raring to go and they want to implement them, could you talk
Mhm.
about how to get buy-in from the team if they're not used to if they're not used to doing timesheets? But also some of the other roadblocks we tend to find are software related. You mentioned Zero, which I use as well in my firm.
Mhm.
Um, what would be your words of wisdom for implementing it from a technical level, like software level, but also from the human level with the pushback?
Yeah, just like any change management, Tim, what you've got to do in terms of implementing it in your own firm is, obviously be convinced of it yourself why you need it. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be a believer in it yourself and why you need it. That's the first thing, and that would be to do with anything that you implement in the firm, including timesheets. The next step or procedure that you can take then is really what you need to do then is go to the most senior people in your firm. So the key leaders or, the people that are next in line with convincing them that doing timesheets is the right thing to do to help the business as a whole. And so in any sort of change management or tough decisions, you want to make decisions that is the highest good for all concerned. But if you sort of just go along with what one person wants, you know, it's not the highest good of all concerned. So timesheets in that sense are for the highest good of everyone concerned, and this is to run a successful business. Without a successful business, no one wins.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
So make the decision in that spirit, the highest good of all concerned, and then go to your key leaders. And so whether you're a small business or you're a larger business, consider who the most influential people are in your team. And I would go to them one on one and win them over until they agree with you. And in that process, like Ed Chan taught me, was you want to sometimes you have to lose the battle but win the war. And
Mm-mm.
what Ed might mean like that, you got to drip on people. So sometimes you might introduce something to your firm like timesheets, and it might be so foreign to people that they just in the first instance they just reject it and they say, oh, I don't want to do that and whatever. So really as the leaders in your firm, you have to then sort of pull away, and don't let it get out of hand. Don't let a storm in a teacup grow
Mm-mm.
bigger. Just pull away and say, okay, well, and then in your mind that in 2 weeks' time you'll bring it up again at a lunch you have with a person, because often you'll have circumstances or problems in your firm that will, if you turn them in reverse, well, what's the solution? Well, if we knew how much time that person or the team was doing on that job, we might be able to work out how we can do it more efficiently. But if you don't track it, you don't know. So you've got to influence the key people in your firm first, those sort of most important or senior people under you. Don't do that in a public environment, Tim. Do it individually, privately,
Yeah,
face to face, not text, not emails.
yeah,
Do it
yeah.
human to human. Convince them. Choose each person, and then as you win the senior people in your firm, then go to the next level of people. And and most people who have just joined the firm or whatever, it just depends on the circumstances. They will be more easily convinced
Yeah.
to move over to say timesheet, for example. But I would do it privately, one on one, face to face. And then obviously when you all come together, maybe in your weekly team meeting, you've already spoken to everyone and everyone's like, oh yeah, we had that discussion 2 or 3 times, so we're on board. But Tim, if you consider the reverse, you've got, you send an
Yeah.
email like
Yeah.
the Jamie Johns of 15 years ago. I'd send someone an email at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, hey guys, we're moving to timesheets next week.
Let's go, everybody.
Let's
Yeah.
go, like,
Yeah.
Ed said, well, your troops are about 10 Ks behind you, Jamie. And
Yeah.
he said, you got to be like Napoleon. You take your socks off and you give it to your troops.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
And
know,
that's
so,
that words of wisdom, Jamie, as you said, for any change you're bringing in the firm, not just timesheets, what the
mm,
way you just outlined.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, it's just about accountability. People who don't have fear and they don't mind about like where they put their time.
Mm,
It's not about blaming anyone. It's not
mm, mm.
about sort of trying to say, hey, Christy's wasting her time or,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's just about trying to run a better business for everyone, it's sort of like that value circle. Like you want to help the staff perform better, be
Mm,
more efficient. It's about efficiency at its core, efficiency.
yeah,
You want to be able to charge the client a fair price in return for you know a fair reward and to the owner. So
mhm.
you want to sort of like everyone wins, and and any policy or procedure can be measured against that backdrop around everyone's. Does the client win? Does the team win? Do the owners win? And you want win-win all the way around. Yeah.
That's so important for getting buy-in, isn't it? Just giving giving the context why we're doing
Yeah.
this. Because accountants are
Yeah.
intelligent people. If you explain to them why,
Hmm.
versus just no context, here's an email, everyone, we're doing this now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a much easier way, isn't it?
That's right. No,
Yeah.
that's right. It's in any policies procedures, ultimately you want the highest good of all concerned, and you want everyone to win, and
Mm.
that's the important thing. If it's easier said than done, but you got to try.
Yeah, no, they're great phrases there. And then
Mm.
just real quick on the software, do you have any kind of parting words for people who have software constraints? Given how important timesheets are, what would you say to them?
Yeah, look, the bottom line is, even sort of working more recently, last couple of years with American firms, a lot of the firms, would talk about these issues and they'd say, "Oh, my software doesn't do this," and
Yeah, yeah,
so I sort of ran a little project where I had one-on-one calls with the product specialists of different
yeah,
software companies, and to my surprise, around 80% of the software
yeah,
companies that I interviewed said, "No, no, we actually do this." And then
yeah,
I remember some comments said that a lot of firm owners are so busy they don't utilize the power.
yeah,
They don't utilize the power or the features of the existing software that you use. So it's important to go back to whatever practice management system you're using because it's, at its core, it's practice management system, right?
mm-hmm.
Time and billing in that sense, and whether it's fixed pricing or invoicing on WIP, you've got to find out whether your software does it. That's what I would say, Tim. And secondly, if you find out from the horse's mouth and say that your software doesn't do it, then in the spirit of bottom up management and being able to run an efficient firm, then I would move to something
Mm-hmm.
that can do it. So whether that means you dump whatever you're using and move to another thing or move to something else that does track it and will track write-ups and write-offs and the profitability per job, that's a sort of a more of a strategic fact-finding decision in that
Yeah,
case. So might need another app to use, and everyone's going to love that because everyone loves apps.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Um, I mean, there's so many areas in the business. We went through a fair bit of them today with hiring capacity planner, profitability,
Hmm.
margin, determining charge out rates. There's so many areas that are touched on by timesheets. Hopefully, that gives everyone on the call the sense of how
Yeah.
important they are.
Now, I remember years ago when I had junior staff starting, they were quite conscientious. And I remember one of the staff said to me, "Jamie, what makes a good accountant?" And I said, "Oh, a good accountant is someone who does quality work fast." Right. Easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah.
But out of that process, whenever I was delegating, there's 5 steps to successfully delegating. But one of those steps when you delegate was to tell people, well, how long should it take to do this task, right? And so that little sort of job calculator there, for example, is just it's a great way to break up the job in all the stages of the job.
Mm,
So
mm,
particularly if you're preparing, whether you're doing bookkeeping or whether you're doing preparing financial statements or whether you're
mm,
preparing tax returns, so the concept can be the same. It's essentially at its core, how much time should it take to do these different areas of the job?
mm.
And look, at its core, Tim, I would say it's micro training, right? You have to micro train people so you don't micromanage them, and they're two totally different things. micro just training just means that you invest in people and you delegate effectively. So every time you delegate a task, you must give them how many hours it should take. And you might only use that job calculation sheet, half a dozen times with a person, and then after that, you've created new habits. And it's all about creating new habits that you unconsciously do as you move forward. What I call unconscious competence. You just move to unconscious competency. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Not
that's
a not a bad tool, Jamie, for new managers as well. If you're newly promoting people
yeah,
to manage, it's just as
yep,
helpful for them as the grinders, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always a team effort, and
Yeah.
that's why that ebook that you've put in the chat is important, Tim, because a lot of our problems, particularly in fixed pricing with firms not making money, is that they don't scope it properly.
Yeah.
Like you've
Yeah.
you really got to scope out a job to know how much time it will take. And when you meet a new client, we always ask for read-only access to their Xero. Um, you know, we ask for the most recent copy of their financial statements and tax
Mhm.
returns, depending on whether you're doing the bookkeeping or whatever. So it's a bit like, for example, you go to a builder and you say, look, can you build me a house?
Mm.
And the builder says, well, you give me a plan.
Yeah, where's
you
the
know,
architect? Where's the architect? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you need a plan
Yeah.
because the first thing that you're
Yeah.
going to do if you build a house is I want to know what the house is going to cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a
Great
client's no
point.
different. Tim, what's it going to cost me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you say, no, well, I'm not showing you my Xero and I'm not showing you my financial statements,
Mm.
we just walk away.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're trying to give a fixed price. What are you going to guess? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah.
much risk. There's just far
Yeah.
too much risk. And a lot of people say, oh, can you just give me an estimate? I'll say, no, I'm sorry, I
Yeah. Let's take it off. I
can't.
will take it
I'm,
off.
I'll go through the process. Yeah. So, and that
Yeah.
also, that sort of weeds out sometimes clients that mightn't be a good fit for your business either. Not everyone has to be a client.
Yeah, yeah. Have an abundance mindset around that. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So many
yeah.
words of wisdom. We'll wrap up there. Jamie, is there any just last passing word of wisdom you'd want to leave everyone with as they go out into their day?
Yeah. I might have said this before, but I'll
Yeah.
say it again. Yeah, set aside 1 hour a day to work on your firm.
Mm.
Yeah, nothing will change unless you work on your firm. So that would be the best advice I could give, Tim.
Yep.
Jump in your calendar, put 1 hour, and
Brilliant.
if you do the right things in that 1 hour, that 1 hour will expand because you'll be delegating, creating policies, knowing
Mm.
when to hire, not to hire, and yeah, that's the best
Awesome.
advice I can give. Mm.
Yep. Great advice.